this was going to be a rocket ship itinerary. And in the back lot, I had literally stepped on human feces. I'm thinking that my brute strength can get me through. I was wrong. Now, I've known bits and bobs, and I could tell you some things about Ireland just from having grown up with Irish heritage or rumors or things that you think you know. But the history runs so deep.
This is exactly the spot where Dublin gets its name, okay? So this circular space here in the middle, this was the Dove Linn, this was the Black Pool, okay? So Dove is black in Irish, Linn is pool. The River Poddle flowed in here, created this dark, horrible pool of water, and the Vikings named it after that dark pool, okay? So welcome to Dublin.
Gosh, the castles and the settlement and why the city was organized the way that it was, the Viking influence on the country and things that I just had absolutely no ideas about.
And this is where everybody used to challenge each other to a duel. And if you challenged someone to a duel, the duel could be started as simply as, Georgia, your sister was wearing a very short skirt last night, the state of her. And she'd say, how dare you talk about my sister like that? You should see your sister. So that's 2 insults, okay? If I return another insult, that's 3 insults. That's how many shots had to be taken in the duel. Now, luckily, firearms were not very accurate, so not a lot of people died in the duels, but they were great fun.
80 million people can claim Irish descent. You divide that into 7.5 billion people, that's 1 in 100. 1 in 100 people on the planet can claim Irish descent. Not only do we get it about, but we like to put it about.
All right, it's Sunday. This is technically day 2, full day of our trip. We've already packed in a hell of a lot of stuff. Last night was a big night, and today we got a little bit of culture. We got a walking tour here in Dublin. We're headed up north to Belfast to meet the CrossFit community there and do a black cab tour.
Black Cab Tour is a well-known organization now, and the guys are cabbies, legitimately, but they're more like historians.
So Bombay Street is the start of 2 things. It's the street where the Trouble started in 1969, and it's also the birthplace of what's called the Provisional IRA, which would be the new IRA formed in 1969.
The Troubles, as they call them locally, that happened in Northern Ireland are, I can't even pay them lip service right now. It's deeper than I could have understood without having gone there. There's documentaries and movies and books and songs all about Bloody Sunday and things that you've heard about the Troubles, but I didn't understand how deep it ran.
This is known as the Belfast pogroms or Belfast massacres. Look at the age of some of these 4 years old, 5 years old, 16, 18, 19
And this is literally
children.
1921.
1921. That's just as the say island partitions. So 1922, everything settled till 1966, and that was simply because a lot of Irish Catholics learned to keep their heads down and their mouths shut if they were going to survive here. 1966, the civil rights movements begin and the violence returns.
To this day, the city of Belfast is literally separated in neighborhoods with walls that look like the Berlin Wall in some ways.
This is a wall. Like, this is like Berlin Wall. I knew about the Berlin Wall. I had no idea that this wall existed between. This is even between north and south. This is within Belfast, just between 2 communities, so that those people and those houses right there don't throw bombs over into this neighborhood.
It does not look like a first world country. It looks post-apocalyptic, and I didn't know what I was stepping into.
We get to write on the wall. We get to write on the wall, and I guess it's the significance of it being the illegal graffiti beneath is coming from people who were trying to send messages in more of a hateful way, and people have written over it with messages of, you know, lots of peace, lots of respect, love conquers all, there's hope. So it's that's pretty cool.
What'd you write?
Peace and love.
I just have a small amount of the lime rice.
Hey, man.
Came all the way to Ireland to go to Broadway.
I'm just following, man. At this point, my wife is like 12 hours hangry. It's just time to eat, so we're doing something easy.
I'm going half barbacoa, half chicken. Yeah, I'm not messing around.
That evening, we head over to Reebok CrossFit Northern Ireland. We show up to the gym. Everybody's fantastic. We do probably one of the most fun warm-ups that I've ever done in my life.
If Mark tags MC by running around the circle, this group has to do 10 burpees. If Mark does not catch MC in 30 seconds, he has to do 10 burpees.
I have no idea what's happening. Watch, I'm gonna go for the lazy start spin move. Watch.
It would be silly to just get together and go have drinks or a meal. Our version of breaking bread is breaking a barbell, right? Like,
my Saturday and Sundays were hungover and not in a good way. And now it's like, what did you do on Saturday and Sunday? Well, I climbed a mountain, I went on a mountain bike, I went for, like yesterday in here, so we did team wall, there was a new guy, and he was like, what do you guys do after? And I went, well, come, we're going for something to eat, come join us. And he was like, whoa, this is really nice. You guys are all hanging out and doing beer and coffee together. And I'm like, yeah, come, it's good fun. So it's just the social aspect of it.
One of the coolest things about going to Reebok CrossFit Northern Ireland was the fact that we had gotten this kind of doom and gloom story earlier in the day. And while there was definitely implied that it was getting better, it was also still very explicit that the problems were present and people were still torn apart down the lines of Protestant Catholic.
Yeah.
So the tensions that are obviously heightened here in Belfast and Northern Ireland, do you feel any of that kind of stuff, or the opposite? Like, is it broken down in here?
No, we're like where we are is a very predominantly Protestant area.
Okay.
Like we're kind of like in the heartlands. We're off a road called Sandy Row, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like what they would class as like a flashpoint. So that's where a lot of the troubles would have been.
Well, we show up that evening and Andy introduces us to Protestants and Catholics who are high-fiving, chest bumping, working out, doing their kettlebell swings together, sweating together, and clearly in community with one another.
The membership, we have a massive mix of Protestant and Catholics.
You do?
Yeah, huge, yeah.
So
huge.
Catholics would come into this area
Yes, totally.
with no worries
troubles whatsoever. No worries.
Wow.
But again, if you go back maybe 10 years ago,
Yeah.
that would never happen.
I think with CrossFit, it is grown, especially in the north of Ireland. There's no division in I was there in the time of troubles, and there was horrendous division. Whereas I noticed in here, like, it's totally and absolutely irrelevant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the best athletes in here are the most helpful. You know, the community in here it's like a new drug. You know,
Right.
it's a new way of life. And it's, I think, for alcoholics, even though you might put the plug on the jug, stop drinking, so to speak. It's a living problem that everything settles in your mind. So you need to find a way of life where like everything comes together.
Yeah.
So like your spiritual, whatever you choose that to be, and your spiritual, your physical, your mental. Like, so I had neglected the physical. It's just these guys. Honestly, these guys are like, I don't know what you would call it. Would you call it a church, or I don't know what you would call it. It's just. If you see that fix,
Yeah.
this is the fix. This is the fix. It sets you up to go out and attack. It keeps you just positive with life, you know that?
Yep.
So go out and live your life to the full, you know that?
Yep. I can't tell you how happy it is. Makes me to hear you tell the story. It's beautiful.